Hey everybody, just wanted to show you a couple things I've been working on. This is a special gift that I'm going to give somebody I can't say because she'll know. Pretty sure she'll watch my video. This is a book that I bought when I was with Frances from Stitches and Stuff. I was in Tennessee for her art conference, and I think I paid like 50 cents for this book. I don't know. But of course I gutted it and I took the spine off, and I'll show you that in a minute. But this has actually been separated from the book, and then I glued it back onto the new spine that I created. And you can see I sewed my signatures in. I have 3 signatures, and then I added an extra thing which lent it to need 2 more threads there, but you can't really tell. I put an eyelet hole so I could have my tassel. I love tassels. Now this one's a mystery, an Alaskan tail mystery, so I incorporated kind of the Native American theme, the mystery theme, that sort of thing. So I used a jute for my tassel. I used an old dream catcher that I had. I think it was a window, you know, like a dream catcher you hang in your window, and I just revamped it, put it in there. I used one of these key thingies. I don't know what those are called. And then I put a charm of a clock. Throughout the book I have several clocks. I made this altered paper clip by putting a piece of fabric around it, and then a little just a throwaway piece. I keep a little box here with just smallish pieces of fabric, like this little cast off and things that I would normally throw away. Probably should. This is what my garlic was in today. I'm sure I can do something with it. Anyway, and I have a couple pieces of seam binding. Off my paper clip I have tiny little safety pins with a couple of pretty little beads on there. Nothing special, but all together it looks good. And then I took a arrowhead that I have in some shells over here that I'd purchased a while back and added to this to further lend to my theme. I put a, let me untie this. I put a little handle on this book, and it was supposed to have little tiny nails, but they just didn't work as well, so I made the holes a tiny bit larger and put just some brads through there. No problem with it since. The back is pretty plain, but that's okay because the rest of the book makes up for it. If you know my books, you know they're gonna be, see, this is what they call a gator mouth. This is it closed. Yeah, I find more stuff to add to it. I can't help it. It becomes kind of addicting after a while. So here's a pocket, and it has Roman numerals and some kind of graph. I'm not sure what that does. And my background paper I used is this celestial night sky. Yeah, because it's stars. I added a sweet little bookmark here, and this is just one of the rescued pages of the book, of this book that I gutted. Put a little fastener and some jute string. But anyway, this turns out, I just like parts of my book that have interaction, you know, that give you something to do other than just look at the book I just tore up. Here's an altered paper clip, and I put a hanging fox on there, and again the clock, so it kind of ties in with the theme. I'll leave that off for just a minute. This page, I'm going to have to move the book, is the very first page of the book, or the title page. You can see it has stamped from the high school, a number. I can't remember how old the book is. Oh, 1966. Okay, so when I pull this out, you're going to see it has other pages to it. This is a page from My Porch Prints. I'm not sure where I got this one. I've got it taped together with Scotch tape. Nope, masking tape. This page here, you can see it has like writing. It's all bent up. Well, this was what I call a cast-off piece of paper, like when I'm painting or doing watercolor. Instead of cleaning my brush off onto a paper napkin, sometimes I'll use a piece of paper because the end result is this, and I just think it's lovely. So I use it in my junk journals. This is just a pretty piece of polka dotted paper, and then it's glued down to the first signature. So here's just a piece of craft paper. I like the sound of it. Some graph paper, lovely paper. I won't bore y'all with this part, but there's so many juicy parts here I gotta get to. This is a book about a mystery on a lake, so I tried to add a lot of wildlife, some mystery. Here's a book, a tag that I created using some of the rescued papers, a little tiny bit of cheesecloth, a print of a postage stamp, not a real postage stamp of course, and a key. Alrighty. Again, just some papers to journal on and filler. Here's a glassine bag that I covered with just a couple pieces of paper, a strip of a rescue page, and here's a whole sheet of one of the pages that I thought was just lovely. I made this tiny little journal spot from chapter 1 of the book and just added a piece of paper to write on. It goes back in there. I do like to use my sewing machine to sew a lot of my pages. I bought just a cheap sewing machine from Walmart for just sewing on paper, because I have a really good sewing machine that I would never sew on paper with. This one I don't mind, it's dedicated to that. So, small craft paper. So that's the end of the first signature. Now the next one, this is the one that I told you is not a signature, but it had to be sewn into the book. It is actually a paper bag, a regular, like a lunch bag size. I sewed a belly band on here and covered it in a pretty piece of paper. When you open it up, here's a little tuck spot so you can see the brown paper bag. And there's a small tuck spot up here, but I don't really use it as that. Here's an old tin type photograph. I got it a bargain spot somewhere. I made a tuck spot here for that. Here's another place in the book that opens up, and it has just endless places in this one to hide stuff, or just to be. Here's another tuck spot. So that one opens up multiple times. And then the paper bag itself is still usable on this end. So that's a signature, and then an addition added on. I made this little tab. Again, this is cast off. It was a piece of cardstock from some purchase, and I painted my clothespins by putting them on there and painting them all at one time. Well, when I was finished, I just saved the card because I like the splatter look of it, and I really like my clothespins. Okay, so here's a little plain tuck spot. Here's a little window I made from just a square I cut out and put some inking on it, and I put a little butterfly. I tore off the part that would be its body and antenna and just made it out of thread because I like it better. I thought my idea was better. I don't always think that, but that particular time I did. So there's a raven. It is a mystery on Loon Lake, but I couldn't find a loon. Here's a little tuck spot that I created, just using a piece of, it was an old card that came in the mail. I don't know what for. And I put a little brad and flower there. They're both metal. And just sewed that down on my sewing machine to give it some texture. So that goes in that tuck spot. This is rescued paper from this book. And you open it up, and there's a place to tuck things, and there's also a little place there. Put a couple pieces of music paper and flowers. So there's the middle of my signature. You can see I've sewn it in with a type of just a hemp string, jute string. I don't know the difference. So here's a postcard that I made, and I covered it in the Tim Holtz Crackle. I thought I had it around here somewhere. I was going to show you. But it's a crackle paint. That took several coats. I don't know if you can see that, but it was nice. But I'm not sure what I'll use it for anymore because, I don't know, I got to investigate that. I put a piece of lace on the back and left it open a bit for a tuck spot. Again, a stamp and just a button with some jute string. Now this tucks in the original page there, but again, this is rescued paper from this very book. I put a little piece of washi, just a paper flower, and a paper ruffle I made. And then here's another place to journal. I just folded these pages down. There's also an additional tuck spot inside this first layer of paper, and then one there. And I left the writing in there. I mean, you're not going to be able to journal much on this. You could around the edges. But I made sure to leave plenty of journal places in this book. Now, this card is actually an envelope, and I dyed it with coffee and ink stamped around the outside. I adhered it to this graph paper or ledger paper using washi tape and just adding a couple pretty little paper ruffle and a little edge. This is a bookmark I made using just a scrap cardstock, some random laces and fabric I had. And this was a technique I was trying where you pour ink and then use your stamp to emboss, not pour ink, pour wax. Use your stamp to emboss the wax and then go back over it with a paint. I used a gold paint there. It was really cool. I need to play with that a little bit more before I can say I love it. But I didn't have any, we moved recently and I can't find my my wax and my wax stamps. So this is Scentsy wax, and it makes my book smell really good. So I don't hate that I did that. That's just a number from Nick the Booksmith, some of her downloads. I printed it out on sticker paper so I could have it as stickers. And there's another signature down. Excuse me. Again, this is my clothespin board that I tore up and used as a tab. I'll use just about anything in these books. This is a little origami bird. A piece of, a picture of an origami bird. And again, another metal flower. Now, this one's one of my favorites. Let me show you all that's here. Okay, these are rescued pages from this book. And also, it is 4, I think, envelopes. So, here's a little tab, and you pull it, and these all come out like this, okay? First of all, we have a little hand here saying look, indicating to look under this band. And there happens to be a very old envelope. And inside the envelope is a picture and a map, lending itself further to the mystery, right, of Loon Lake. So that goes back in there. It's a tight fit, but it's a fit nonetheless. So that goes back in there. Here's a tiny little journal that I created just out of some craft paper and ledger paper and using the Tim Holtz teeny tiny stapler. I love that thing. But I sometimes lose the staples and then I'm in a panic, can't find them. This is a craft paper bookmark that I covered with just some ruffle paper, cheesecloth, a button that I ran some jute string through, and a printed postage stamp. And it is actually glued down right here. Well, my favorite thing about this is, so I told you a story. It's 1, 2, 3 envelopes. This slides off, and inside here is a hidden journal. That is magnetized. This hangs onto here simply by magnets. So I glued a washer down here. Let's see if you can see it. There's a washer here, and then inside here, down inside here and under there, you can just barely see that magnet. So when this goes back over the envelope, it stays put by magnet. Now we've got this beautiful section of envelopes. Here's again the envelope tag. On the back, there's also a special compartment. Now here's an octopus. Maybe that's the mystery of Loon Lake. And this again isn't a loon, but it's a raven. I took one of the pages where it says the Loon Lake Mystery and Alaskan Tale and cut it carefully. Actually, that's not true. I just found it randomly laying on my desk, and I said, oh my gosh, that looks like I cut it carefully. And then I collaged a few pieces of rescued paper down here, put a little brad that has birds on it, and some random seam binding that I've colored. Inside here's a couple pieces of paper for journaling. Then there's a skull, further adding to the mystery of Loon Lake. This is a small piece of paper that I made a window in using acetate that was just going to be thrown away. And this is a printed page from Nick the Booksmith, and I just cut a square out, put a piece of plastic, and then behind it's a rescued book page. This is another one of my favorite things in the book because it just has so many elements to it. You know, it's got the little journal, it's got the mystery in the back, so that folds up and goes there. And here's another middle of a signature. Here's a page that is rescued from this book. I put a paper butterfly. I used some markers to kind of enhance the body and wings a little, and gave it some DMC thread as antenna, and I made a window for it as well. And then you pull this out, and maybe this is some clues to the mystery, I don't know, but it's definitely another place to journal. And inside is the contents with the names of the chapters of this particular book. And again, this is just a piece of rescued acetate and a frame I just randomly made, you know, because I can somewhat cut a square. And then I sewed around it just to give it some texture and make it look like it was sewn on the page. So we got just a few more pages here, a piece of craft paper, and I just have a print of an old envelope. This one I just folded kind of funky to give it some interest. I included the card envelope that actually came with the book. And then there's several pages to journal. Oop. Well, that could be glued better. I even put a little koi fish, because it's a lake, right? Now here's another favorite part of the book. Let me move this over a tiny bit. This is what I'm calling a floating envelope, and I'm sure it's been done before, I just hadn't seen it. So I glued down a little piece of cheesecloth to make it kind of look like a net. I folded this piece of paper kind of wonky. At first I thought, oh, I want to do the origami square, you know, where it folds out. And here's definitely a clue to the mystery. But what I did was I put a washer back here, and there's a magnet glued here. So it floats on top of there, and if you pick it up, it's not going to fall off because it's magnetized. See how it looks like it's floating? So when you open it up, there's a tiny little newspaper clipping talking about the person who's missing and the gentleman's picture we saw on the tintype. So it's up to the boys to put the answers together as to the mystery of Loon Lake. Or the owner of the book. They can do that and have fun coming up with their own story and their own tale of what happened and what should be done. So I just held these together with a paper clip. Yeah, I really did. See there? And then that hangs like that. And it closes using one piece of scrap fabric. I run it under the handle. And I hope the TV's not too loud in the back. It's downstairs and I have no control over it. So, that's my book. I do leave all my threads that hang out from where I have sewn something. I just like the look of that. And here's the tassel and the book. And I hope my sweetheart loves it and knows that I made it just for her. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed that. And I'll be back in a few days because I have built this monstrosity and it's just pretty fabulous. And I can't wait to share it with you guys. Alright, take care, be safe, wear your mask, wash your hands, be kind to one another, and I hope you have a fantastic evening. Take care.